Charles, I've decided that the dramatic opening element of you closing in is the sound of silence, which is exactly what these people will hear right before the hammer drops.
Exactly. People were talking about this various efforts to get al-Baghdadi, and these wounded warriors were talking about. One guy I was listening to said that just before he was blown to smithereens, but he obviously had been put back together,
Yikes.
there was this sound, this ominous sound, and he just knew that that sound was not a good sound. And the next thing you know, he's just like in pieces all over. Wow. That sound, get ready to hear that sound over the headquarters of the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation, over the worldwide headquarters of BKD, and a bunch of accounting firms and law firms. Because I hate to quote the New York Times, but the New York Times has a story which is something like "Haiti in Ashes" is the headline. It's the lead Google News story, or one of the lead Google News stories today. It came out 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to be talking about in a moment is the imminent deadline, November 15th, 2019 at midnight, that there's no way the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation can meet, nor can its professional advisors meet, nor can its trustees, nor can its donors meet without suffering immense pain. It's a question of, do you want your pain now and later, or do you want it, deferred a little bit and even a lot bigger later? I mean, what do you want?
Yeah.
And
is this the Ross Perot giant sucking sound?
It's worse than the giant sucking sound. It's like, you've seen those pictures down in Florida of a sinkhole that comes out of nowhere, and there's like a nice suburban development, and then next thing you know, you can see China through the sinkhole. Uh-huh. That's I think what's headed for these guys, and it couldn't come at a more fitting time. Here, Haiti is a failed state. This yin yang, this grifter from Arkansas, a place called Dope or Hope or wherever he was born, has been in New York too long, playing fast and loose with the rules in New York and around the world. Yeah, that's the headquarters of the Clinton Foundation.
Giant sinkhole.
Yeah, stinking sinkhole.
Something was here.
Exactly.
Where'd it go?
Yeah, this is the Clinton Sinkhole Initiative project.
Right.
We used to be our slush fund where we kept all our money, and then something happened.
Enabling sinkholes around the world. Now, Charles, I know we have a very busy show today and quite a lot to get to and limited time. I just wanted to point out to people, you're looking remarkably high resolution today, Charles. We have
that's a pity.
a little software upgrade that has allowed us to utilize the native telephoto lens here, and so we've made some upgrades to the image quality. I hope that people will notice and appreciate that. I also just wanted to remind everyone that the show has been hit by a malicious social engineering attack, so people aren't seeing us right now on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel. Their options are to join us live on Crowdsource the Truth 2 on YouTube. I hope that more people will subscribe to that channel. They can get the show live there. They can get it on Periscope by going to periscope.tv/CS The Truth. They can see it on D Live. They can see it on Twitch. Facebook is having an outage this week, so we're really being kind of clamped down. People can, of course, go to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. They're going to get uninterrupted live streams there. They're also going to get access to all the exclusive sponsor-only content. And tonight we've got High Dive with Lee Stranahan right after this, only on Patreon and Subscribestar. So hopefully people will join us there.
Great, great. Well, there's been, before we get into the substance of this, which is I think, going to be very interesting to people who care about accounting and enforcing the law. Are you listening, FBI? Are you listening, Department of Justice? Are you listening around the world? Because we're going to share some new explosive details that should just like, is it a Wile E. Coyote in the Acme safe falling out of whatever? That's what we're talking about in this broadcast. But before we get there, there's been late-breaking developments on the supposed whistleblower case. And Jason, I wonder if we could go to that Zero Hedge story. Yeah. So this story came out at 2:45 on Zero Hedge, that the supposed lawyer, this Democratic operative attorney representing the anti-Trump whistleblower, this story reads, and I've already contacted Zero Hedge, I have a way to do that. It says, the lawyer who's linked to Podesta, Clinton, and Schumer, who founded the anti-Trump nonprofit Whistleblower Aid. anti-Trump, there can be no such thing. So let's check just quickly, shall we?
Yeah.
Is this anti-Trump nonprofit whistleblower aid? Let's just put it up into open corporates and see if it goes there.
Sure.
It may, and we can figure out what state it may have registered in. This lawyer may be as bad a lawyer as he is a partisan. Let's see where this may have been set up. I'm guessing DC. Okay, yeah. It's a branch of something called Values United.
Uh-huh.
Okay? It said previously alternatively known as whistleblower aid.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's set up in DC. They supposedly called Values United. Let's see if it's registered anywhere else.
Click on it?
No. Oh, well, you could click on it, yeah. Let's just see that. Okay, yeah. So this is a nonprofit corporation in District of Columbia, a branch of a Louisiana. Well, it has a branch in Louisiana. That's appropriate. No aspersions meant on people of Louisiana, but there's a lot of natural gas and oil and swamp gas down there.
I actually like Louisiana.
Yeah, I sort of like it. But anyway, well, let's just see if Values United, or let's see if Values United is registered in New York. And to do that, you would go into NYS Charity Bureau search. Need a space.
Charities NYS.
Search the registry. Well, yeah, or just
Sorry, let me go back.
charities. Hit charities.
Search the registry.
Search the registry.
Yep.
Hit there. Yeah, search the. Then put in Values United. And then hit search.
It's thinking. Yeah, this is a notoriously slow. There we go.
Yeah, not found. Put in whistleblower aid. Now, the notion that you would set up a serious charity trying to get tax-exempt contributions without registering in New York is absurd.
Is that spelled correctly?
Yeah. Let's see if it's registered. I think we're going to discover no.
So you're saying any charity that's not registered in New York that's trying to collect money nationwide is absurd?
No, what I'm saying, any charity that wants to raise substantial sums and has not thought about raising money in New York is kidding itself, because New York with very high tax rates, people are looking for ways to give money away to avail themselves of the tax break.
Right.
And there are a lot of partisan, if this is a Democrat charity in theory, or
New York's
leaning
the
left,
perfect place to be.
the logical place to. And so here we have this guy who's supposedly a genius, this lawyer, who's representing Podesta and Clinton and Schumer, and now
Other supposed geniuses.
the anonymous, the anonymous rat pack here, right? I mean, and they have set up this charity which doesn't appear to have registered in New York. And let's think through the idea of, just philosophically, can you have such thing as a democratic, anti-Trump nonprofit that's tax exempt? No, you can't, right? Charities have to be nonpartisan. They can't advocate for a specific political candidate, and they can't advocate against a political candidate or for a cause or against a cause. You're not allowed to do that as a nonprofit charity. So how smart could this lawyer be? I mean, maybe this lawyer is not even, a member of the bar, or maybe he's a member of the Mueller bar. But I think, this whole story about the whistleblower is getting more and more curious.
Yes.
Donald J. Trump Jr. has just tweeted out his name. People are saying, how can you do that?
Well, because it was already known, wasn't it?
Well,
Eric
but
Ciaramella?
Yeah, but the point is that, of course, you should do it. I mean, the idea is in this crazy la-la land of, the Yale Lie School faculty and the Harvard Lie School faculty that would produce the eminent Professor Obama and the equally eminent Professor Hillary and Bill Clinton. You're innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to face your accuser. This isn't a case of a whistleblower.
But even if it was, the Whistleblower Protection Act does not protect the whistleblower's identity. It protects them specifically from retaliation at the job. You can't fire them for blowing the whistle, but there is no provision in there for remaining secret.
So here, I mean, where this is going to come, it's going to be one of these jujitsu things. It's started out this little, David is going to take down Goliath Trump, and I think the reverse is going to be Goliath Trump is going to look at this and
Squash him.
because, you can't, as Schiff in the House and the Democrats, you can't say that it makes sense when we're fighting a trade deal to get a trade deal in China. We're fighting ISIS. We're trying to deal with these Mexican cartels. We're trying to create an environment where capital flows to the U.S. and jobs are created. That it makes sense to encourage partisan jerks on either side of the aisle to anonymously initiate a process unprecedented, or seldom used in United States history, at the highest levels twice before.
But the way Schiff is doing it is unprecedented.
It's
He's literally
wrong.
making up the rules as he goes and just barreling through.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So I think that story, we will be covering it in more depth on Sunday. But I just wanted to, you and I have been talking about it off air just before we got here. I thought we should get that balloon out there. Let's get the Crowdsource the Truth 2 and Maine communities looking into this thing to see what exactly is it. And we'll have a fuller report Sunday.
There you go. And with that, Charles, we are on the slides.
So I've got several things have come together for me. We're going to summarize for the crowd. But basically, on this day where Haiti is a failed state and where the people, and that's not a laughing matter. I mean, this is still tail end of hurricane season. You have a lot of money has gone through that country. You have a lot of virtue signaling political hacks, the Clintons and others, taking credit for what they did and trying to gin up new schemes to divert or to source aid for the vulnerable and then divert it to pay for Chelsea's living habits and their living habits. In this environment, we have the very practical situation. I remember in business school ages ago, literally 41 years ago when I started, you'd all be sitting there, and I was extremely young, but with no experience, and you have these grand themes, and the professor would say, what do you think about this? And then the professor would say, what are you going to do about this? And it was one bright bulb said, well, hire a consulting firm to get it done.
Right. In college, they said that?
No, business school. So, which actually, in business school, McKinsey, which was one of the main people to hire, was very eager to inculcate the theory that you should hire McKinsey to help you
right
implement
away,
even back then.
Wow.
So, but the point is, you're sitting there as the Schlickmeister, Bill Clinton, and the spoiled brat, Chelsea, and Hillary, the Chardonnay lover. You're sitting there, and you've got this charity you got two charities with your names on it. You got the Clinton Family Foundation, which has been run since December 4th, 2001 by the three grifters. That's their personal charity that is totally screwed up and has not done any paperwork properly. On top of which you have the main charity, Bill, Hillary, Chelsea Clinton Foundation, which used to be called at inception the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. All of these entities have to file truthful disclosures to the IRS, to states, and to federal, and they have to do it in the case of New York State. The legislation is set up for the state filing such that you're not allowed to file after November 15th, 2019. You cannot comply
So what
with
happens if you don't make it?
Well, you're in a position where the Attorney General can say, you didn't comply, therefore we have no reason to believe you can comply, and we're shutting you down. You're not a charity.
Take away the tax exemption.
Retroactively. Yeah. So they're facing towards...
So we're going to know in like a week.
We'll know what they try to do. I mean, they've blown through this. I started on this in 2015, and I did one of those ticking down clocks. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And they just blew through it. They just said, what we're going to do.
Mini cannons. That was your mistake. You should be shooting soda cans.
Well, again, you see, in 15, Hillary was the front runner. She was the presumed person who was going to win. So I think a lot of the functionaries in the IRS and Justice, and in New York State and other states and around the world said, look, we know what this person's going to do. And we saw the Queen of Mean when she was the First Lady. Now she's rich. She's going to be president, and she's going to, rhymes with witch, slap you around a little bit here if you cross her. So people were reluctant to stake the territory out that we staked out in 2015 and 16. And then she lost. Right, and so, but she immediately mounted this resistance. This Zaid guy was involved with the resistance. Podesta was doing it. That was a cover his scrawny ass move. And then, of course, Chuck E. Cheese Schumer was probably in on the resistance as well. So they've been fighting tooth and nail, and they knew, because these are swamp rats, they knew that the people in power from the holdovers, the political ones, and then worse, the bureaucrats who were pretending to be nonpartisan, that they could slow Trump and do to Trump what was done to Trump and to his people, to initiate the Mueller thing, tie him up in knots with that. With all that having been said, you've got a very practical problem. You have to produce truthful disclosures that have to be and will be made public around November 15th, and I'm ready. I've been ready, I was born ready, but in this case, I've been studying this very carefully, and we have teams around the world who are waiting to see what's going to be filed here. And it's a question of bad or worse. It's not a question of, what's my pony going to look like under the Christmas tree? It's not pony, it's what the pony produces you're going to see under the Christmas tree. And so why I can be so emphatic, let's get into it a little bit.
Absolutely.
So before we spend a lot of time on it, though, welcome to the new viewers, and I imagine you have some new ones. This is a different sort of an exercise. It's a journey that we've been on together, where people around the world have helped me enormously looking at what you and I produce and talk about each broadcast. We lay this all out in a format where those who are interested in detail can get into detail. We don't charge you for the slides. We encourage you to follow the links. There are a lot of pages at this point. This is our 187th broadcast, I guess.
Yep.
And most of them it averages around 2 hours. Art department's done a fantastic job as usual.
Thanks.
Or maybe 186th broadcast. Jason has put all the previous broadcasts together in an easily accessible way. And every one of them has a thumbnail sketch, so you can get a sense of what we were talking about. Most every one of them, I'd say 160 out of the 186 have slide presentations, they average about 10 pages each. Jason, you could talk people through how to get those.
Yeah, you just go here into the video description, and on this one what I've done is I sort of encourage everyone to read the sponsorship links before they get to the download Charles's presentation link. But you just click on that and it's totally free. It's gonna show up right here on your computer. You can save it, print it out, follow along, whatever you like.
And we try to do them all in sort of the same format so people get used to it, so it's easier to try to understand everything that we're talking about here. So we encourage comments and constructive criticism. You can reach me on my site, Jason and me on Twitter. So let's go into some detail. That we're not going to do the what just happened stuff or what's finally happening. We're going to get right into the substance in the next slide. And this is, that dentist, that annoying dentist who advertises on television, maybe you don't see it. It's like he's got this really annoying accent, and he's talking about, if you're somebody who hates going to the dentist, I will make the experience pleasurable. Click, next channel. But this is not as bad as that. People talk about accountants, and maybe most people, if you have a certain amount of income, you're dealing with accountants personally. But when you get into running either a nonprofit or a company, accountants do extremely important work, actually. And when you want to get things done properly, you need a good accountant, not somebody who can just talk a good game. Somebody who's been through the wars, ideally somebody who's been sued, somebody who understands how much trouble you can get into, which obviously the Clintons don't. But the thought that, we have some experience, I do, and others have, with response from certain accountants saying, well, look, I'm an accountant, I'm not a lawyer. I couldn't possibly know these fine legal nuances of Rwandan law and English law and Indian law and Arkansas law. You can't ask me to do that. That's what we have lawyers for. That's where we call out the mega bullshit. Because there's something called AU 250, which is a specific set administered by this AICPA organization. And Mr. Hansen, I hope you're preparing to leave that organization, because you can't possibly stay in the position you have, very high level here, the equivalent international position, because you've so gummed up the administration of your own firm, BKD. But your organization, AICPA, which generally is respected, puts out many guidelines. One is, what are you supposed to do with regard to law and regulation? So to make it simple for the folks that BKD who may be having trouble with all this, if somebody comes and says, Jason, you're the accountants from BKD. I'd like you to audit my nonprofit, which is federally tax exempt and is not like a Bill Gates Foundation, a private foundation, but a public charity. You kind of have to make sure as the accountant, let me check and see if Charles's nonprofit is federally tax exempt, also state tax exempt, and that it actually is a public charity, not a private foundation. It's kind of like an essential first step.
Yeah, but I'm a tiger. I can't read.
Or, for the other one, we have a new mascot, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes, the new mascot.
It came back with a lot of market research.
Yeah. Well, they're thinking about definitely putting Truman the Tiger out to pasture and bringing in this new mascot. They see no evil here. Oh, no, this is B, K, and D.
That's the original people.
Exactly.
They got together and they put the firm together. But anyway, so you're supposed to verify that the thing is what they say it is. I mean, you shouldn't be wasting a lot of time constructing statements of activities and statements of position and cash flow statements and footnotes and having meetings. The first step is, okay, let me look this sucker up and see, does it have federal tax exemption and what is it supposed to be doing? And you're supposed to identify, they have to put it in multisyllabic languages, non-compliance, which basically means, breaking the law or breaking the regulations, and they define it, okay? It means an act of omission, i.e. you don't tell somebody something that's material, or an act of commission, that you say the thing is a public charity, but you fail to mention that Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Clinton, at crucial points, controlled a public charity, which is not lawful under the laws even of Arkansas, right? It's just not, you can't do that.
There.
A public charity has to be controlled by an independent board. It has to be independent from its creator. It can't be dominated by a personality or a family. And it has to act in the public interest. It can't act to take, let's say, a former president and his annoying current wife, probably soon to be ex-wife, and bratty daughter, and take them from a place they were at January 20th, 2001, where they were technically bankrupt. You can't use a public charity to whip up mansions and whip up speaking fees and whip up investment contracts and sweetheart deals and cash for your living expenses. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're strictly prohibited from doing that. And you also can't use a public charity to promote the Clinton brand, generally, or the Clinton brand of politics in political campaigns or around the world. You're just not allowed to do that. But that's precisely what they did do. And then the second thing is, it's not like with audits, when you see, I used to joke about this when I was living upstate, in a rising property market, any able-bodied person, male or female, who had enough cash to go into a hardware store to buy a hammer and a bunch of nails, would go to a sign store and slap something on the side of their pickup truck saying that they were a contractor. And
when was that?
A long time ago, in the 80s, when it was a big property boom. And people just came out of nowhere and said, look, there are all these dumb suckers who with some money and not enough time to check anything. I want to do work for this guy because he's so busy flying around the world doing other stuff, and be grateful when he comes back and finds, this room fixed or that room, and I'll charge him twice what I should charge him. It's not like there are no rules when it comes to accounting. You have to plan before you even get to the place where you're trying to do an audit for somebody. You have to decide, is the client something that can be audited in the first place, right? And I don't think BKD did any of that, because I don't think BKD was appropriately registered in Arkansas when they started working for the Clinton Foundation way back when in 2001 or 2.
They're from Michigan or
They're from Missouri.
That's why he likes the tiger.
The M's.
Right.
Yeah. So, so this other thing, we don't have to put it up here, is a long digest of what you're supposed to do looking forward on an audit. You sit down with a client, and it's now, let's say you really start doing work in 2001, and kind of the things I'd be thinking about doing would be like, okay, this is called the William J. Clinton Presidential Foundation. It's supposedly based in Arkansas, but there's nobody working in it in Arkansas. And there are a lot of people working for Bill Clinton in New York, and a lot of the activity seems to be directed in New York. Let's check and see, let's say I'm apolitical as an accountant. Let's check and see, does Bill Clinton have any recent issues with having to surrender his law licenses
Like
for
rapes or perjury or
yeah,
anything
for
like that.
lying
And
under oath
felonies
in a
that-
deposition and then obstructing justice. Is he the kind of guy, you know, that you'd want to take his word at face value? That, you know, there's nothing screwy going on here. I mean, is it possible that the FBI and the Department of Justice have just opened a massive investigation into Bill and Hillary Clinton for public corruption and lying under oath and using the foundation to feather their own nest? Yeah, it's possible.
Charles, is it a reasonable question to even ask why they would hire an accounting firm from Missouri if they're not in Missouri? I mean, I would understand an accounting firm in Arkansas and certainly New York. There's a lot of accounting firms. Is that unusual to go to Missouri? I guess they could say, well, this guy's the head of the American Accounting Association.
No, back then he wasn't. I think they went to BKD. I'm just guessing. And you know, the FBI, if Dopey James Comey and sloshed Bob Mueller hadn't been, you know, already down the path of, quote, investigating the Clinton Foundation beginning in February of 2001 in the case of people who preceded Mueller and Comey, you know, you would think that you would really check just that question and you would say, how come the FBI with Rosenstein and Justice for 4 years, 2001, 2005, how come none of these blokes noticed that there were no compliant audits issued for this Clinton Foundation by anybody? You know, the audit, we've been through it before, says this audit has been issued using standards that are not applicable in the United States of America. I mean, that's, you don't have to be an exalted Pierre Delecto, Mitt Romney consultant, or Rajat Gupta at McKinsey, or a Nobel laureate like Paul Krugman to look at something and say, wait a minute, this thing is in America, and I've got an audit from a firm that is not registered under its name to be an accountant in Little Rock, giving me a piece of paper early in March of 2002, when how could you possibly know what actually happened in 2001? There's no way to put the financials together. And I'm using these people?
Well, two important questions. Is Pierre Delecto actually somebody's name?
That's Mitt Romney's fake Twitter handle.
Oh, Pierre Delecto. Right. Wow. In flagrante Delecto.
Speaking of which, on a sidebar, I'm thinking if somebody hasn't already done this, we need to get the Twitter handle Jim Jordan's Jacket.
Okay.
Well, we need to put
Too late now, someone's getting it.
Right.
But the other serious question, you just said something explosive, Charles. We've been looking at a picture of this idiot Eric Hansen for months, but you have just revealed to us that he was not the president of the American Accounting whatever.
He's not the president, no, he's the chief operating officer of BKD and the chairman
of this,
but not back in 2001.
Well, I'm saying, did he somehow obtain that position as a result of helping the Clintons? Maybe.
Could well have.
So that's interesting, isn't it?
So the simplistic way that accounting works is that, for me anyway, and I'm not an accountant or a lawyer, I have to bring that up in every broadcast, but because I don't want to be accused of practicing law or rendering accounting advice. The problem with something like a public charity is that a public charity has to make public disclosures, and they all have to be truthful. And a public charity that solicits, or a private foundation that solicits in and outside its home state, using the mail, using telephones, using other electronic means, circulating information that is materially false and misleading, is in a world of hurt. I mean, it's just, Trump went to that mixed martial arts fight or whatever it is. I mean, you're walking in there, it's, nuns versus mixed martial art fighting. I mean, it's just not close what's going to happen to you. And
nuns are pretty tough, according to Mike Moore.
Yeah, well, they're not that tough. Yeah. So anyway, we have this looming deadline. Why am I so confident that they're toast? Let's go to the next page. Okay, these are now, I'm just taking a few problems that I see. And you can decide as we go through. I'm going to go through every line of this. These are 15 of the problems that I see with the balance sheet of the Clinton Foundation at year-end 2009, okay, which is the starting place for all the work that whoever's going to sign this audit, if they're going to sign it by November 15th, you got to start here, okay? So the first problem is that the CEO of the Clinton Foundation, this is all in the public record. You can get anyone who wants to check this, you can go to Arkansas, consult the Secretary of State, Ask for what their records. You'll see all this stuff is obtained through the public domain. The chief executive officer of the Clinton Foundation in 2009 was supposedly Bruce Lindsay. Okay, as a lawyer, you can incorporate a corporation. That just means establish. It doesn't mean organize. You can incorporate something, anything, as a lawyer, but you're also the CEO of the Clinton Foundation. So as the CEO of the Clinton Foundation, you have a primary duty of care, loyalty, and obedience to, at this time it was in theory called William J. Clinton Foundation, in theory. But in practice, Lindsay didn't even get that right. So here's a lawyer, a member of the Bar of Arkansas, being paid big money relative to other people at the Clinton Foundation. He goes out and he incorporates this entity, New Clinton Global Initiative. I call it New CGI. It's Clinton Global Initiative, Inc., on the 4th of September, 2009. Okay? But it's one thing to just incorporate, to go, you just create articles of incorporation. If one person does that, okay, there is a strong argument that it is definitely not organized on the 4th of September 2009. And that's why the main Clinton Foundation, when it did this, October 23rd, 1997, they had 3 incorporators. Here, this idiot, Bruce Lindsay, and I really think he's a crooked idiot.
Bad combo, Charles.
Yeah, Barack Obama's the president. They have the cover of Barack Obama. He thinks he can get away with anything. So
Rhodes College, Georgetown University.
Yeah, he's a real heavyweight. He establishes this thing, but he doesn't hold an organizational meeting, and they don't hold an organizational meeting for the Clinton Global Initiative until the 4th of August 2010, when they signed bylaws, which means there's almost a whole year, 11 months, when this thing is flailing around. It's not a legitimate entity. It's failed. New CGI has failed the organizational test in this period, right? So it's not a legitimate operation. But that doesn't stop New CGI from holding a Clinton Global Initiative meeting in New York on the 22nd to 25th of September, roughly whatever that math is, 18 to 21 days later, without registering in New York. They've never registered the Clinton Global Initiative as a fictitious name. They held 5 meetings through, they started the first one in 2005, so this is the 5th meeting. Barack Obama speaks at this meeting. Nobody in the White Comey jokes about how, Trump, the reason he did what he did to Trump is Trump was too disorganized. He wasn't familiar with how things work. How does the President of the United States and his staff not know that the Clinton Global Initiative is not a charity, it's not a public charity, it hasn't had an organ, and he's going to show up at his first, full year as president, he's going to deign to speak at a fraudulent enterprise in New York, an important electoral college state?
Bad?
It's pretty bad, okay? So that's, it's not enough that he just does that. And remind you, the firm that should have noticed all this is on the right. I'm not picking on BKD, they're picking on themselves. They're in a circular firing squad against themselves. On the 29th of September, this crooked lawyer, Lindsay, incorporates yet another new thing, New Chai, on the 29th of September 2009, but there are no bylaws for New Chai until February 3rd, 2010. And this is very significant because New Chai, or Chai, is by far and away the biggest piece of the Clinton Foundation in 2009 and 2010. So it's not like, he could say, well, I was just doing this on a whim, on a flyer, it's not important. It's the most important thing you could have done. And again, he's a lawyer, and I don't know who he was working for as a lawyer, whether he retained outside counsel to do this, and he's also the CEO of the Clinton. He's now screwed up twice, right? And it's not even, September isn't even over yet, okay? Then the Clinton Foundation goes ahead and submits a 990, an annual report form, to the IRS and to multiple states, like 40 plus states, concerning 2008, that's totally wrong. It's like no part of it's right. They don't get the name of it right, they don't get the address right, they don't get any of the numbers right.
Their own signature?
Everything's wrong. I mean, it's just an exercise in wrongness.
It's very good.
It's like, if you want, it's actually very valuable to know people are always wrong. It's just because they tend to be, especially if they're arrogant and you're always wrong, that's fantastic. They love to pontificate. You just sit there and anything they do, you do the opposite and you'll be a billionaire before you know it. But in the case of, so here we have, they file this thing for 2008 late, 6 weeks late, and it's absolutely wrong. On the same date, New Chai, this thing that Lindsay tried to create that doesn't have bylaws done, so the operations of Anil Soni, the named CEO of New Chai, are null and void. There are no bylaws. Directors aren't overseeing this process. It's just, there is no entity here.
But why, Charles, do you expect that something will happen now on November 15th if they've been failing to do all this before?
Because there wasn't Trump as president, there wasn't a new IRS guy.
This is the first time since...
This is the first time, this is the first filing moment that we have a new IRS head, we're through the Mueller thing, we have a lot of things turning our way in multiple places around the world. A lot of governments are watching this around the world, I'm told. And so let me just keep going though, because it's just to give you a sense of how effed up this is. All right, so the biggest piece, they file a false application for tax exemption. They register in New York this New Chai on the 5th of January 2010, even though there are no directors overseeing this, and they submit a false application in New York State across state lines. It's a federal crime.
Yeah.
They never register, and this is interesting, well, we're kind of rushing for time, so people can look and check, put in Clinton Health Access Initiative into the business entity search piece, the Secretary of State, not the Attorney General, and you'll see Clinton Health Access Initiative never registers in New York. Okay, so that's not bad for, there's 7 things they screwed up in a short period of time, and then we get this disaster in Haiti. So what happens here, if you look and hit this link, Jason, Barack Obama, B-Rock, and Bill Clinton and W. Bush are in Washington, D.C., and this is a page from the famous Barack Obama archive of stuff.
It is? Oh, wow. Obama White House. Yeah, look at that.
It's his house. And they talk, January 16th, 2010, this is still up there at 12:40 p.m., and it's a long story about, how it's a nice story. It's, written in Hollywood by good screenwriters or whatever. Oh, how can I help? Bill Clinton said, and George W. How can I help? Well, you could start by filing some fucking forms for your foundation that are actually truthful, you goddamn grifting fraudster. That's how I'd start.
Does it say that, Charles?
It doesn't say that.
Oh, you should write this for them.
But anyway, these are the remarks, 11:02 in the Rose Garden. One of our good friends pointed out that it's fun to watch this video because it's like Barack Obama starts on it and he's like, okay, Bill, you finish. You can't get through it.
Wow, really?
But here's the problem. On this date, on January 16th, 2010, there was no such thing as the Clinton-Bush Haiti Fund. It had never been organized. There's no legal document, no nothing. And our system is not that the President of the United States gets to just tell people what to do, and it's like laws. Barack Obama told me to do it. Of course it's legal. That's not the way it works.
Really?
No. No, that's not the way it works.
You better send a text to Obama. I don't think he knows that.
Yeah, he has not gotten this yet. So, on the other hand, implicating W and Bill and now Barack in a gigantic fraud is something that, say, the deep state would love, because now you've got these people in a place where they have to pretend it's legal.
No, I think that's what the Clintons have been trying to do.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back into the list of things. And I'm only on year-end 2009 here, right?
Wow.
Okay? So having done that, it's not enough that Bruce has done this 2 preceding times. He takes a third thing, this Alliance for a Healthier Generation, Inc., and does the same damn thing. He incorporates that in Arkansas without having an organizational meeting. It's unclear when that thing is actually, the bylaws are signed for that, so forth. Then another false application to the IRS for tax exemption. This is clearly a successor to activities that began in 2005. The New Chai thing is clearly a successor to activities that began in 2002, and they say, we're not a successor. They say in both of these, in Chai, they say, have you adopted bylaws? It says yes, even though they haven't, on December 31st, 2009. I mean, nothing is correct here. Then they go ahead, that's not enough to do those wrong. Let's go ahead and do new Clinton Global Initiative. They set that thing up. They file an application on the 9th of August, 2010. It is not organized lawfully. It is clearly a successor This is the 5th annual meeting that they'd held in 2009, so obviously it succeeded to something. We have this audit, in quotes, issued by BKD, or the Three Monkeys, on the 10th of November. It's addressed to the wrong name. It is, no part of it is accurate. They don't have...
Why is it addressed to the wrong name?
Well, it's not the correct legal name or address of the entity. And that's for results for 2009 audit. Then that's on the 10th of November, they do that one. And then on the 15th, they file another annual report to the IRS that doesn't include, for example, when you liquidate old chai, you have to fill out something called Schedule N. You have to explain how you did that, right? And who bought old chai, how did you transfer it? And it's quite detailed disclosures, which they've never done. It's a big mystery how the money went from the old thing to the new thing. And
realistically, any person doing this in their business or charity would be in jail right away.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so it gets better. This has never been corrected. Now, a trick that ProPublica Nonprofit Explorer has filings for Clinton Foundation entities on it that the Clinton Foundation website is purposefully obscured. So the brilliant, and I say that not meaning it, Doug Band files what's called a short period 990 for the new Clinton Global Initiative, covering the period the 4th of September 2009 to 31 December 2009, where he claims there are no revenues and there are no expenses. This is it's filed on the 11th of February 2011. That's kind of a problem because in this document, where they submit on the 9th of August 2010 an application for federal tax exemption. So before Bandito puts this idiotic form in,
Doug Bandito.
Bob Harrison, who is a Rhodes Scholar, and I think probably a decent guy, puts in a 1023 that says there are 24 million of revenues in 2009 and 23 million or so of expenses in 2009. But after Bob has done this, and after the IRS has given Clinton Global Initiative tax exemption, Bandito decides, I better put in this short period thing, which is completely wrong, and it's stark variance for this. And then there's an audit issued for this new chai on the 31st of August 2011 that is intentionally, in my judgment, omitted from the Clinton Foundation site because it's so wrong. It's just completely wrong. All of these things are things that should have been noticed by BKD, right? And it's the kind of thing, I've been through situations, tough situations, fortunately in my life for a long period of time, and I enjoy them. People make mistakes and you're not gonna notice things. But here are 15 things with regard to one short amount of time, starting year-end 2009, and nobody at BKD caught any of this? Right, so let's go to the next page. How does this relate to Haiti? Okay, so the earthquake actually hit Haiti at apparently 4:53 p.m. They say that the initial estimates were at least 100,000 were killed.
Wow.
Some people say more than that.
Wow.
This Clinton Bush Haiti .org site, it might be Clinton Bush Haiti Fund.org, I've got to check that, was assigned at 4:16 p.m., but there was no legal entity on that date.
Wait a minute. This happened
4 days later.
4 days later. Got it. Right.
And this public service announcement, if you go to the next page, the next one on the 16th, Jason.
Click the link.
Yeah, it hit the YouTube, yeah.
Sorry, it's coming up over here. Do you want to
Okay, you tell me, is this something that would take no time to prepare? I mean, it has 168,000 views.
Well, this is just the two of them sitting down in front of a fireplace with a camera and some lights. You could put that together in a day.
Okay, but I mean, but you don't produce George W. Bush.
That's true.
And Bill Clinton on no notice. I mean, so the fact that this comes together, donate now, gives you this, it was ClintonBushHaitiFund.org.com. ClintonBushHaitiFund.org was the site that was assigned, I believe. We should check the other ones.
They put the hate on Haiti.
right? And this is, more on all this. So a lot, we'll get to this in a second if we go back into the slide, but people can look at this themselves. Bill leaves, he goes to Haiti on the 18th of January. And then let's hit this one here, this on the 23rd of January 2010. Look at this story. They claim to have already raised $57 million. There's only one problem. There is no Clinton-Bush-Haiti fund. No legal entity has been established anywhere lawfully called Clinton-Bush-Haiti Fund, but they've already raised grim-faced celebrities and musicians with mournful tunes, set the tone, and raised $57 million. This is the essential problem with disaster relief. There needs to be a shelf-ready foundation that's positioned lawfully with the authority to help with any disasters around the world. There needs to be one of those in each country. And it cannot be the province of the shysters and hucksters and the Clintons and others like them to get involved with, obviously after a natural disaster, people are going to be willing to help. But the big problem with all this is if something has been destroyed, chances are there's nobody on the ground to tell you what needs to be fixed. I mean, you can't immediately fix it, right? So that's a huge problem that they, in theory, have raised $57 million. The articles of incorporation are filed in Delaware on the 28th of January, okay? And there's no organizational meeting held, so it's like the other ones I've been talking about. It's been established, but it hasn't been organized, okay? But now Barack Obama is in the middle of all this. Then by the 9th of March, this is hilarious in light of this is a big one I'm going to drop on you here. The American corporations, this is beyond the individuals, have claimed $147.8 million has been raised by 9th of March 2010. There's no organization yet. But look how they got it through. Let's hit this U.S. Chamber. Look at this. This is a list of all the people claiming to have given money, and you're going to love this one. We'll just go down a little bit, just a little bit, scroll. All right, stop right here. So how does 3M Company route the money to Haiti?
Project Hope.
Project Hope, our old friend,
That's
John Hope Bryant,
Yeah.
AKA the shyster from Los Angeles. How does Project Hope have an organization
Is
in
he
place?
Haitian?
Huh?
Is Bryant Haitian?
No,
Oh,
I don't think so. But the point, he doesn't have authority. It's Los Angeles Operation Hope. It's supposed to do work. How does 3M decide to give money to Project Hope to go to Haiti before there is a Clinton-Bush-Haiti? I mean, 3M's a pretty, I'm a small investor in 3M. It's a good company.
Tape.
Yeah, Scotch Tape. It's actually a big company. It's a member of the Dow components. I mean, how do they give money to John Hope Bryant for Haiti, right, by March 9th? Without all these, you go through, it's a long list of companies. $5 million from Abbott. All of this stuff is going towards a project in Haiti, and there's no legal organization yet. And nobody, Eric Holder's the Attorney General. His job, he said, was to watch Barack Obama's back. Evidently, Eric Holder and whoever was the Deputy Attorney General at this point in time, and folks in the IRS, nobody's checking any of this. Because Lord help us if they are checking it. This goes on and on and on this list here. So let's go back into the slides.
It's quite a list.
And we have, there's a press release that says, we don't have to go put anything up here, that says that an organizational meeting is held on the 10th of March in New York. Now, Clinton-Bush-Haiti Fund never registers in New York, so you can't have an organizational meeting if you don't register. But on the same day, Barack Obama says that he's going to give $200,000 of his Nobel Prize proceeds to the Clinton-Bush-Haiti Fund.
I don't trust that Nobel Prize at all.
We're going to get into that in a second. So they open a file. Somebody says, we better register this Bush-Clinton-Haiti Fund as a foreign nonprofit in Washington, D.C. So they do open a file on March 17th, 2010. But when you go into the D.C. entity search, FBI and others, you'll see the authority for that entity to operate in Washington, D.C. was revoked, just like has happened with the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative. All right? The bylaws are published March 19th, 2010. No evidence they were signed. The new CEO puts an application on Form 1023, and a letter then is issued the same date from the Nobel Prize Fund confirming that monies have been transferred per Barack Obama's instructions to something we're going to show you in a second. So I think the Clintons successfully entrapped Barack Obama in wire fraud. And we're going to show you that in a second. And so a determination letter is issued on the 28th of April, 2010. That grants tax authority to this fraudulent enterprise that should never have gotten it in the first place. So you go to the next page. Okay. Now this is stuff that if you go to the Clinton Foundation website, you're never going to see any of this. You have to go to New York State or California, whatever, and you can get the 1023s, the application for federal tax exemption. And in this application, submitted under penalties of perjury, it says, the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund website currently is administered and maintained by the William J. Clinton Foundation. Okay? This is something that went from Washington, D.C. to the IRS. And remember, this is in 2010 when this is going on. Lois Lerner is just ramping up her campaign to crush Tea Party conservatives. Okay? This piece of garbage goes in and says, the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund was maintained by something called William J. Clinton Foundation, and the William J. Clinton Foundation had no authority to do any work outside of Little Rock. Okay, so it had no authority, therefore, to get this or operate this website. And it says here that the two public charities, and I would debate whether the Clinton Foundation is a public charity, established things called Clinton Bush Haiti Funds. So William J. Clinton Foundation, in theory, established something called the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund. To establish a Clinton Bush Haiti Fund in New York, if that's where it was, you have to go and get a fictitious name, or use the legal name, and you have to have the authority to solicit and accept money for that fund, which it did not have at any time. Okay? Same question for the Communities Foundation of Texas. Now, by the way, this pattern and practice was followed in creating the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund in August of 2005. So it isn't the first time that they broke the law, the Bush family and the Clinton family doing what they grifting together. Okay? Here it says the board of directors met for the first time, appropriately, on April Fool's Day, to get together. And they're soliciting hundreds of millions of dollars with no entity. And they only get around to having a board of directors. Oh, let's have a board of directors meeting. Why don't we do that?
But you see, this is also a guy who's raped women and just been like, I don't know anything about that. And they're like, oh, that's probably true. So do these guys just have some spell over everybody that they can do whatever and nothing happens?
I don't know. And so you look at this and you ask yourself, a lot of big governments gave money to help Haiti. And again, today Haiti is without power and without hope, possibly. Look at this. Let's hit this link right here. This is something that came out of our State Department, bragging about how much money the State Department scammed up to go into Haiti. If you go to page 3 and look at the bottom. Page 3. Look, keep going. This is how much money they claimed they had raised as September 30th, 2014. $4 billion just from the U.S.
That seems like a huge sum.
It is. I mean,
Is
maybe
that
not to
accurate?
you. Yeah, no, that's accurate. That's just the U.S. All in, the estimate is between 10 and 13 billion went to Haiti.
But everybody from Haiti says, where'd the money go?
Exactly. And here we have Shifty Adam Schiff going after Trump to find out whether what he said to a Ukrainian president is an impeachable offense. And you have a Congress that allowed a $1 trillion, not $4 billion, almost $1 trillion stimulus plan in 2009-10 to be adopted, and no shovel-ready jobs. No one happened to that money. The $4 billion for Haiti is a pittance. There's no inspector general in the State Department now. Hillary's grifting like crazy, and we're on a tear to discipline Trump, impeach Trump for trying to curtail corruption in a country that's receiving U.S. aid. I mean, this is just shocking to me. So let's go to the next page, because this is where I think the Clintons effectively clipped Barack Obama's wings.
He had wings?
Yeah. All right. So this is that press release dated March 10th, okay? Again, there is no such thing as the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund by March 10th in New York, okay? It couldn't have been established by two people, right? If you want to have a corporation, it has to be established by at least 3 people.
You mean a nonprofit?
Any type of corporation.
Really?
Yeah. If you want to do, it's not independent, or you can have. Well, certain types can be single shareholder.
I have my corporation.
All right. Yeah, but if you want a nonprofit, it has to be 3.
Nonprofit. Okay. Yeah.
Or more, because otherwise it's not independent from the creator. Right? So you have to come. They didn't do that.
So if that's a mandate of any nonprofit,
Yeah.
is that it's got to be independent from the creator?
Of any public charity.
Public charity.
Right. So a private foundation where you're giving all the money to the private foundation, you can, like Bill Gates.
But if you're collecting money from the public, it has to be more than one person, and it has to be
independent,
removed from the creator.
Right.
That sounds like a problem for somebody I know.
Yeah, could be. And things vary state, but generally it's a major league problem. So this was not established. This is issued. This is taken from a press release. I didn't put the link in, but this is a Clinton Foundation. It's a Clinton Foundation press release. It's online. And I just excised some of the language. All right. And it says here the board members, notice 2 of them. One is a former Clinton administration, sounds like a partisan person, chief operating officer for the William J. Clinton Foundation. She lists her address as Bill Clinton's personal office up in Harlem.
I don't think that's untrue. She's living under the desk.
Well, I don't know about that, but she's clearly not informed New York State properly about what's going on with the William J. Clinton Foundation and its various relationships. And then you have this guy who filed all the paperwork wrong. Let's put him on the board of this Clinton Bush 80 fund because he's distinguished himself. Right? And then it says here that by this time, March 10th, they claim 200,000 individuals have donated over 36 million. So you got 200,000 individuals have given 36 million. You got 147.8 million from corporations, and you've got who knows how many hundreds of millions from governments around the world, and there's no organization. And this is by their own admission. This isn't me asking questions under a Klieg light. This is a press release they put out and have kept out. And they can't take it down now because it's on the Wayback Machine. So they never had authority to do any of this lawfully. Okay? So who do you think they go to get money for this?
Bryant?
Bammy. Barack Obama.
How does he have money?
From the Nobel Peace Prize proceeds.
Oh, right. Yeah,
and here we get to the fraud part. Okay? On the 11th, the next day, Barack Obama is, he's no scandals there. No scandal-free environment, right?
Scandal-free, yeah.
Right? He's getting a Nobel Peace Prize.
Wasn't that just a way to hand him $1 million?
No, he in theory gives all of it, the money, to charities.
But I'm saying, they say, Obama, you're getting a Nobel Peace Prize, and by the way, give us the $1 million. And they just lean on somebody at this stupid Nobel Foundation that's filled with shysters.
But the way that works, in theory, is that when you receive a prize like that as an American, and I'm, Barack Obama's American, you have to don't go there.
I don't know.
Just don't.
Evidence
at the moment.
suggests.
We don't want to zig and zag now.
Yeah.
So 200,000, you collect 1.4 million. The way you have to do that lawfully is you have to declare that on your personal income tax return.
That's a hassle.
And then you got to turn around. You want to give money away, you have to, is it a public charity you're giving money to? Yes or no? Or is it a fraud, which this is? There is no Clinton Bush 80 fund that's lawfully organized. So ordinarily, you get the 1.4 million. Let's say that's all your income. And let's say let's say that's your adjusted gross income. If it's a public charity, you can give 50% of the 1.4 million away and claim it as a tax deduction. But you want to give 100% away. You can't do that unless you have a lot of additional income, which I don't know that he had in 2010. We can go check his tax. Maybe he did. But so there's a tax issue here. But of course, he's got the IRS covered. He's got Lois Lerner in the nonprofit. He's probably got somebody else in the individual. He's not going to get audited. But what we have here is we have the actual instructions that Barack Obama himself, his signature is on this, instructed the Nobel Prize people on the 10th of March. He said, I want you to give 200,000 plus the residual, exchange rate issues. I want you to give 200,000 to the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund of the Clinton Foundation, giving an address at the William J. Clinton Foundation, which is not its legal address, in Arkansas. Okay, so did Eric Holder do any diligence on this? And then the specific instructions are you got to send, donations are supposed to go only to the program expenses of the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund. Okay, now let's just look at this quickly. There's just, you can see with your own lying eyes, you can see the actual communications back and forth. Okay, maybe I can see them too. This is the White House. Now maybe this is forged. Okay,
Yep.
but does that look similar? That looks,
looks
dear
like-
members, I love this. This guy, somebody needs to take Barack Obama aside and say, there is no I in the word team. Everything with him is I
Well,
am
the
the
second
Cheeto.
half of that phrase,
What?
I can't say.
All right. To receive the I was honored and deeply humbled to receive the 2009 Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, I'll bet you were. And it says here, I will donate the proceeds of this award to charity, which means it has to be a charity. It can't be a fraud.
But see how a lawyer can't resist getting this pursuant to Section
Well,
74B3.
We need to check, crowdsourcers and I will check to see how this 74.3B section works. I'm going to guess, based on what we're going to show you in a second, that it did not qualify. So here's Barack saying, please do this. Go to the next page, Jason, please.
Of
And you
this?
see, here's a list of it. Here's Fisher House, and here's what he said, Clinton Bush Haiti Fund of the Clinton Fund. There is no such thing, okay? And Harvey Weinberg, whoever that is, the guy doing it, this must be his accountant. We need to find out who he is. He's taking care of all this. And you see here it says, I want you to send $200,000 plus any remaining funds. Here's the Bank of America, county number, routing number, SWIFT note, right? And same stuff for these other things. Then go to the final page.
Nice address for the American India College Fund.
What was it?
A lot of threes.
Oh, final page 4. All right, here we go. It's back from Stockholm. I speak Swedish. Here's a letter.
Like a Muppet.
April 12, 2010. Please explain to me why Marcus Storch would tell you, if you go back the page, on March 18th, 2010, we sent monies to the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund of the Clinton Foundation. Well, here's a news flash for you. On March 18th, 2010, there weren't no Clinton Bush Haiti Fund located in Arkansas or anywhere else. There wasn't any lawful thing. I would hope these other ones, although the Posse Foundation makes me wonder about that one. I think we should check each of these. Fisher House, I know, is a real foundation.
Would you like to see this?
Let's go through it later,
Okay.
just because it's, I'll check it. Thank you for flashing it up. So they have Barack Obama signing an instruction, instructing a foreign foundation to send money to a list of charities, one of which is not a lawful charity. You have the President of the United States instructing, thank you so much, Nobel Prize Foundation. I would now like you to work with me to break the law and direct some of my Nobel Prize to something that is not, in fact, a charity. And the deep state knows about this, and Clinton knows about this, and the money gets wired. And so suddenly you're in a position where to undo the stench of the Clinton Foundation, you necessarily are going to implicate Barack Obama. Instead of, if it were me and that had happened to me, and something much smaller like this happened to me, and where people attempted to defraud me, and they thought, well, he's not going to complain about it because to complain would make you look stupid. I said, I'm going to freely admit,
what?
huh?
Complaining would make you look what?
Stupid. That I was tricked. I'm like, I'll get tricked. Everyone will get tricked. Fraudsters are determined, and those fraudsters made a big mistake because what I did is I said, I'm not afraid to admit I made a mistake. That you learn from it. And nor am I afraid to threaten to put you in prison, which I did.
Happen? Awesome.
And I got the money back.
Great.
With legal costs and expenses for a lot of people. And I'm not going to say who it was, but let's just say presidential level people.
Who frauded you? Oh, I know who it was. I won't say.
So let's keep going to the next page.
But that guy never went to jail.
All right. So here we have the current status of the filings of the Clinton Foundation for 2010, okay? This is in summary form. The most important piece of a not-for-profit's filing disclosures for me are what did you spend the money on by way of programs, right? Because a charity is supposed to take money in and exclusively further the purposes, the authorized purposes of the charity. So you look at the original filing for something that uses this EIN, which is supposed to be the Clinton Foundation, for 2010 was put in on the 14th of November, and it said they spent $50 million on Haiti, $11.6 million on Clinton climate, $27.9 million. So I just call that absolutely unauthorized spending. None of these things the Clinton Foundation had authority to pursue. And they'd say to the IRS, you know what, we're just, because Lois Lerner's in the hot seat, she's going to make sure that nobody looks at this and prosecutes us. And we got BAMI in the middle of this Haiti thing. We're good to go here. Nobody's going to check any of this. We're going to admit that we spent 92% of our program spending was for unauthorized purposes. Only $8.3 million on the presidential staff. And who was the tax preparer? Good practice for this is you would have one firm be the tax preparer, one firm be the auditor. The tax preparer, the three monkeys. The auditor, the three monkeys. Okay? Monkey see, monkey don't do, monkey get everything wrong. And the 2010 audit, was it compliant? Of course not, because nothing was issued. There was no audit issued for this entity described in the 990 for 2010. There was an audit issued in theory for the consolidated group, but under New York law and other places, you have to get an audit for the actual entity that you submit the tax form, and they didn't do that. Now, was the Clinton family in control of this mess in 2011? No, it wasn't. But by November 2nd, 2013, they engineered a change in the bylaws, and ever since then, arguably, the Clinton family has been in control of this mess. So what do? They say, well, let's get together. Some bright bulb at BKD, Michael Wolf is his name, who was the head of the nonprofit operation at BKD, so you'd think he might know something about this. He signs his John Hancock on November 16, 2015, to a revised thing that says, no, where we said our spending was 90 million, no, it was 107 million. No, I said 90, 107, things change. They change. That just tells me, I see something like this, you're completely out of control. You can't tell me with a straight face that, under penalties of perjury, November 14th, 2011, I spent 90 million. Now I'm going to come out, where I said 90, it was, what is that math? 17 million higher. I actually spent 17 million more. So whenever I tell you 90, I tell you $1, you should assume I actually spent $1.17, because that's the way I am, right? So who's the tax preparer here? BKD. Who's the auditor? Price Waterhouse. The audit that was, you've changed all this stuff. Have you gone back, as is required under New York law, and gotten a new audit for this entity in 2010? Nah, fuck it. I'm not going to do that. I don't have to do that. I'm, above the law, because Barack Obama's in the middle of all this. He's not going to admit there's a problem. And I'll just sail through. Nobody's going to do this. And this time, the Clinton family is in control on the 16th of November, 2015. Now remember, at this time frame, the FBI has mounted an investigation into Hillary Clinton and her use of the toilet bowl server system and unvetted devices. That investigation is hot and heavy, in theory. Okay? We're getting ready like now, 4 years ago roughly, we're getting ready to see a presidential contest, and Hillary Clinton's going to be the next president of the United States. So these emails that are missing, there are going to be some very interesting emails. And I'll wager that Horowitz has them.
I think the FBI saw the Mrs. Bill animation yesterday on Twitter, too, so we're really close to getting there.
All right, so this entity, this supposed entity which filed, has never been approved lawfully to be a charity anywhere in the world. Okay, yet the bright bulbs at BKD and Price Waterhouse and now at Cone Wrestling, they just say, it doesn't matter, the fix is in. Nobody's going to expose Barack Obama. The Clintons know that, the Bushes know that. We're done. Let's go to, could it get worse? Let's look at the next page. Okay, so it could get worse. On the same day, on November 14th, 2011, this Clinton Health Access Initiative, which has failed the organizational test, failed the operational test, it files a breakdown, it files a 990 for 2010, where they initially claim that our program expenses in total are 171 million. Okay? That's 21 times, and this entity separate from the thing we just went through, 21 times the spending on the Presidential Center. They've gone through a project and said, you know, we're going to spend 21 times as much money as we spent on operating the presidential center on something out of Boston. And there is no, they had
that
lawyers.
little house, that what's his name?
Yeah,
was on?
exactly. They had lawyers. They had money. They could have hired somebody to do this properly. They could have gone to the IRS when they wanted to change their mission.
Magaziner was doing it, right?
Well, I mean, Bill Clinton and Hillary was a senator back in 2005. They could have gone and found one honest lawyer. I mean, there's got to be one honest lawyer in Arkansas.
I only know 2 in the world. So.
Right, but there's got to be one. They could have found one, and they could have gone and they said, listen, we built this thing now. George W. and all the other living presidents were at it, November 18th, 2004. We want to now do other good works from our base in New York. Let's put together a plan. Let's get the IRS to approve it. And they could have gone and did that had they taken a second to think it through, but they didn't do that, right? Who's the tax preparer for this pig in 2011? BKD. Who's the auditor? BKD. Did they file a return for the period September 29th, 2009 to December 31st, 2009? No, they didn't. So they've got an open, short period tax return just like the parent. Did they file a Schedule N at the parent for the creation of this thing? No, they didn't. Is the audit that they submitted for 2010, does it comply with, I don't know.
It's Hillary Clinton screaming in the hallway.
That's right, yeah, from Chappaqua, you can hear her here. So did they, that was not compliant. Who was in control? This is a public charity. You're not allowed to control a public charity with individuals. Who's in control of it? Bill Clinton and Ira Magaziner. Is the Clinton family in control? No. Right. So then, mind you, this is before Cohn-Resnick issues the famous thing we talked about on Sunday saying, and DLA Piper to Donna Shalala, November 16th, 2015, saying, you know, you don't have to change a thing. You don't have to refile anything, right? You don't have to, because you're the Clintons. You do what you want. I mean, they do refile for this chai on the 21st of November, 2013. They refile. They've done another smaller one, but let's just focus on this, where they say, you know, where I told you in the 14th of November 2011, I spent $108.9 million on Unitate. On the 21st of November, I'm going to change that answer to 0.
Well,
I'm just, you know,
seems fine.
That's like, you know, some numbers go up and others go down, right? For the parent company, they go up, these are going down. And you look at this and you say, all right, other. I mean, when somebody gives me something and other is more than 10% or even 5% of the breakdown,
something's wrong.
I send it right back. You give me something that says, I program expenses, $62.6 million, and other were 58% of it. You're not explaining anything to me. You're hiding what you're really doing, right? And so that math went in. This time, the $62 million is 8 times what they spent on the Presidential Center. They've got this new firm, CBiz Tofias or something like that. Huh. They don't go back and file a short period return. They don't go back and file a Schedule N. There's no audit issued. They refile the tax return for 2010, but they don't correct BKD's ridiculous audit issued in 2011. Magaziner and Bill Clinton personally are in control of this, and the Clinton family is in control of the entity that controls this public charity. So this thing, you know, is so far away from being compliant that, you know, you would if you could do this, and you probably can't do this if you're the IRS, you know, you send this filing into the IRS, and the IRS sends you back, you know, a laugh tape. I mean, it's not, this isn't remotely close. It is reckless beyond measure. It is a gross breach, not only of the trustees or directors' duties of care, obedience, and loyalty to the various entities. It's a gross breach of the professional code of responsibility of lawyers. Lindsay's involved centrally in this as a lawyer, and of accountants, the CPA report. This is absurd, right? So then we go to the next final page.
Ooh, sorry.
In contrast, this is an example of, you know, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, they get to do all this. Here is a summary from Fake News CNN with a link to the page, okay? Lifting certain things out. What was going on at the same time that this mess? What was going on at the IRS, according to CNN?
Tea Party.
They flagged 296 applications of Tea Party people, right? You're gonna jump on 296 Tea Party people, but you're going to let Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, all the donors to these frauds, get away with this massive fraud with crying Haitians, dying and crying Haitians, disease-ridden Haitians, a country falling apart, virtue signaling people, flying around in their private jets, getting money in to supposedly help these people who are being raped, who are dying, who now have a country that's bereft of hope, okay? You're gonna target Tea Party people and at the same time let this mess go on, all right? And May 2010, just at the same time these applications are going, they said, be on the lookout for Tea Party people, right? July, they heat it up and they start making it really, really difficult, okay? And they put a lot of pressure on people who might have come out. You know, I've talked to some of these people and interviewed them, whatever, and unlike the applications, the many applications the Clinton Foundation put in that sailed through that were never obviously questioned because they were so wrong, the Tea Party people would go and they'd put an application in and the IRS would say, okay, we're not going to respond. Clinton Bush Haiti Fund application goes in April 12th, it gets approved April 28th, 2010, 16 days later. Well, you're a Tea Party person, no response from the IRS, and then you call them and say, oh, we missed it, we didn't see your application. And then you put the application and say, all right, what we want you to do is we want you to tell you, we want you to tell us every prospective person that you might solicit money from. And you're sitting there saying, do I really want to do that? I mean, you know, because now I'm going to guarantee that all the Tea Party contributors get audited personally. Right? The disproportionate contrast between what the IRS under Lerner did to Tea Party people versus the sailing through of fraud that was allowed, that's what needs to be studied here. And that's the way to pitch it. Not that, you know, Tea Party good, Obama, it's the contrast. You should not have this contrast. You should have exactly the same thing. It should be blind as to whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent.
I think Lois Lerner is running YouTube now, because when I complain that people are coming here and broadcasting my address and threatening my safety, they don't care.
That's
But
probably
apparently
right.
you show a picture of someone who's a public figure and give commentary on that, and they shut down the channel
Right.
for 90 days without asking or responding.
Right. And so it's horrible. And here we have, this was all done because they had an election. They knew the Tea Party election result, the 2010 election, was a disaster for Obama, right? All the Tea Party, the rhinos were defeated, more conservative economic and some socially conservative Republicans were elected, and the Republicans gained massively in the House, and I don't know what they did in the Senate. So that was a real cautionary. You're sitting there in November 2010, and you're saying, I just might not win the presidential reelection. And if somebody, you know, not Romney, but somebody like a Trump comes along and wants to clean this stuff up, I have an existential crisis on my hand. So the problem I have with a lot of the reporting, even out of Fox and all this stuff, is you got to understand the motives of what these people were doing. There is clear evidence that the Clinton Foundation was not an organization, was not run lawfully while Bill Clinton was president of the United States. There's absolutely clear evidence of that. It's incontrovertible evidence. There's clear evidence that while for some reason George W. Bush was president, hoping to get reelected, with an open FBI investigation, IRS investigation, they, in quotes, missed this escalating fraud. And they missed it afterwards, right? So you've got to figure out what's going on here. Maria Bartiromo teased it out a little bit the other day. She said that she's hearing that the Durham investigation centrally involves the Clinton Foundation.
I hope that's correct.
And I hope it does too.
A lot of people don't think that Durham is going to do much of anything. And you know, Charles, another really damaging aspect of that assault on the Tea Party, before I knew really anything, just what I heard was all negative about the Tea Party. And then some Tea Party people contacted me to speak at their event, and I've now met and spoken with them several times. They're like the nicest people ever. They were so nice to me.
I've been and I've spoken at Tea Party events long ago in 2010. And what was really interesting to me is the number of, I did maybe 3 or 4 of them, and as either a guest or a speaker or both. But the amazing thing is when you go to them, how many immigrants, legal immigrants, come up to you and say, listen, do you know how bad things are or were under the Soviet Union? Do you know how bad they were in Eastern Europe? Do you know how, I'm here in America because I know that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders' brand of socialism really, it's not that it doesn't work, it kills people.
Yeah.
It consigns nations to the dustbin of history. And I'm here to tell that, and that's why I'm in the Tea Party. I would get, not assaulted, but people would want to talk to me ad nauseum on that point. And so I promised I'd keep this to 90 minutes, and we've got about 5 minutes left.
Actually, Lee Stranahan has texted me, and we need to push High Dive with Lee Stranahan to 7 p.m. So if you'd like to go into some more detail, we do have some time, Charles.
Oh, well, no, I was rushing, and...
I don't mean to rush you.
That's quite all right. But I think, when you look at this, and folks have begun checking that person, what's his name, Alfonso, who did, or was the head of the non-for-profit operation of Cohn Resnick in 2015, if you had people who believed in the rule of law at these accounting firms, if you had people who understood that once you get to a certain level in any industry, one firm fundamentally is indistinguishable from another firm. If you're going to go down a path specializing in covering up fraud for politically connected people, that has got to be a professional choice. It's like, deciding that you want to be a prostitute catering to people with AIDS. I mean, it's just not a very smart move, right? I mean, to say that you're going to go into an area where you're going to whitewash or attempt to whitewash money laundering by politically connected people, you're going to create the slush fund foundations for Obama and whoever, if Trump, God forbid, ultimately leaves and wants to set up a slush fund. That must be something that is, you should be hounded out of the profession. As I understand certain Native American cultures, the way they would deal with outright crooks, and there always are at any ethnicity or location, there's going to be a crook. They would take these people and say, listen, you must leave. Just get out of here.
Just leave, and that means you're going to die.
You're definitely going to die. You leave, and if the animals don't get you, another...
You're not going to be able to get food.
Elizabeth Warren's ancestors will get you.
Yeah.
The non-Native Americans.
Right. That sounds like a more likely outcome. Well, so Charles, I apologize for rushing you through. We sort of, it was an impromptu resurrection of closing in. So what I'll do is maybe I can adjust with Lee. Perhaps 7 o'clock is a better time for him to begin always. If we start this at 4 and him at 7, give you a comfortable margin there.
Whatever, no, I want to get it through.
I think it was a good presentation. We didn't speak too much about Midnight Ruin, the film. There were some comments in the beginning, and I know we wanted to get through quickly. People really love this film. It was a great Robert De Niro film before he lost his mind. So
I think I may have told you this. There was a great restaurant. I used to live on 82nd between Lex and 3rd, and there used to be a fantastic Italian restaurant that's gone there. There also used to be a great Chinese restaurant that's gone there. But and this was really a superb Italian restaurant in the sense that it had, I forget if it had a courtyard, but it had a nice dining room. It wasn't overpriced. It was just a good place. And I'm in there with my now departed ex-wife in the early 90s, and we're having a nice dinner, relaxing. And I look there's Charles Grodin.
Oh yeah.
And actually across the street, I think it was either Seinfeld or I might have been Seinfeld out of town. There were a lot of famous people in the area. So I generally do not do this because I don't like to disturb people who are relaxing, who might be. But I went up to Grodin. We were both leaving, getting our coats or whatever, and I said, "Look, I'm very sorry to disturb you. I just want you to know how much I admire your work. I think you're wonderful." Yeah. Oh, thank you. He was very, very nice.
It's a very funny film for sure.
But I haven't. Is he still on the planet?
I mean, he had a talk show that wasn't too successful. I don't know if he's alive still. I mean, this film came out in 1991 or 2.
Wasn't it 86?
I'm pretty sure I saw it in no, you're right. It came out before 1990 because I saw it in Los Angeles. I was at a summer program just before college. So yeah, 88, 89, something like that. Yeah, it's an older film. But anyway, Midnight Ruin. Charles, thank you so much for another great presentation. Everybody who's watching right now, if you could, please like, share the video, that kind of thing. Email it to people. We're in a little bit of a kind of a hampered mode right now while we don't have the full live streaming capability.
Or tweet it out. I mean, you should
Tweet
mention
it.
you had the thing that you did, the cartoon short,
Yeah.
which, you know, at the time you did it, I was convinced that thing was going to go to 100,000 quickly.
I was too.
And I not because I'm in it, but just because I think the pacing of it is very funny, and
The music.
the music is, you know, I'm trying to get, maybe we should do it's unfair to do this to you, Jason, so I'm going to do it. Maybe we should check
Do
and
a
see
sequel.
whether the Crowdsource the Truth community would like to see another cartoon.
Well, I'm sure people would. The problem with this cartoon, I shared your view that I thought it would go viral and be very beneficial to the growth of the channel, but to this day, it only has 7,000 views. I tweeted it at Hillary Clinton yesterday, and in just a day, it's got almost a
1,600.
quarter of the views that it's gained in over a year since it was on YouTube. So this is interesting. I mean, strictly speaking, from a business standpoint, spending 3 weeks making videos that get 8 or 10,000 views doesn't make that much sense.
But maybe we could encourage somebody out there to
Well, I'll make another one for sure. I've got a couple of lawsuits I got to handle before I can get into too many creative projects, but you've actually just reminded me of something, Charles, that I had forgotten for a moment. I think everybody knows that Crowdsource the Truth relies on the sponsorship of the crowd. People can go to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and sponsor the show. And I've been relying on this business model because I think it's really important to eliminate the financial influence of large sponsors. But I was contacted by a small company called the Hero Soap Company, and I haven't entered into any business arrangement with them yet, but they've suggested that they might want to sponsor the show. And they just sent me, I got to get some more information on exactly, what they're all about, but it's a veteran-owned company that makes this all-natural, made in America, organic, soap, which I'm super into products like that don't have SLS and, ooh, it smells really minty and nice. Look at that, Charles. It almost looks like I want to eat it.
It looks edible, yeah.
It looks delicious.
Looks like fudge.
Yeah, so that's the Hero Soap Company, and I said to them before I endorsed the product I would want to try it, but it sounded good on the phone, and I will take a shower with this tomorrow, and we'll see what people...
I'm sure people will be interested in that. Just don't...
Well, but the question I wanted to ask our viewers now is, what would they think about me possibly getting into some sort of sponsorship arrangement with the soap company? I think it's different than relying on ads on YouTube or having some, Mike Moore was telling us that I think the Koch brothers wanted to invest $500,000 in True Pundit, and I wouldn't want that type of investment because it goes without saying that if somebody gives you $500,000, unless they do it upon their death, there's going to be something that they want to do for that money. So we'll try out the soap. We'll see what the crowd says about the possibility of a soap sponsorship. It's clean.
Yeah, you could have good soap, and then you could have soap for a dope. Some other.
And with that, Charles, I think we'll wrap it up. We'll see you on Sunday, which everybody expects. This has been another episode of Charles Ortel is Closing In, and thank you very much, Charles.
Thank you.
See everybody at 7 p.m. on Patreon and Subscribestar for High Dive with Lee Stranahan. See everybody then.